following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Youmans.
It's a wonderful Wednesday edition of Talkin Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the SWBC studios. Welcome in, everybody. We've got Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans as we break down the Cowboys defensive matchup versus the filthy Philadelphia Eagles.
Ouch.
I can't stand the Eagles, guys.
Yeah, facts.
I mean, if there was a franchise in all of professional sports that I would despise, it would probably be number one, the Houston Astros, and number two, the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's the only reason that I dislike the Astros more is because they're filthy cheaters.
Yeah.
But then I've got the Philadelphia Eagles who aren't much better. So
yeah, I actually kind of go back and forth on this topic in my head, and I have over the past several years.
You hate the Astros too.
Well, oh yeah, of course. But as a Braves fan, we handled that. You're welcome, world.
Thanks, guys. The Rangers got them last year too.
They did. Shouts out to the Rangers. But as far as like my most hated Cowboys rival, I kind of go back and forth between the Commanders and the Eagles.
Really?
Now, hear me out. Now,
Yeah,
because I'm of the generation where it was much more so a true rivalry between Washington and Dallas. And then if you know the history between those two organizations, you know that the Cowboys don't exist in this iteration if they didn't have to extort the vote out of the Washington football team, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, back in the late 50s, 1960. Using their own college football song against them, whatever. So the legacy is deeper as far as the hate goes between Washington and Dallas. However, as far as recency goes,
yes,
you are hard-pressed as a Cowboys fan to hate another franchise more than you hate the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is it the best rivalry in all of football?
In like pro football?
In pro football.
It's
only
up there.
when both teams are good.
I think, I mean, I'm trying to think of any of the ones that would equal that. I'd say Packers,
Rams, Niners,
Bears. Rams, Niners is good because
Packers,
it's just got
Vikings
the California.
Packers,
Vikings is good. A lot of those northern matchups because they've been around for 100 years.
Steelers, Browns, Steelers, Bengals.
But like down south, it doesn't get much better. And by down south, I mean Dallas specifically because Philadelphia.
Also keeping in mind, Cowboys weren't always in the NFC East in the first place. They're in the West.
Yeah.
So there's that.
49ers. The Raiders was really big just because they had to cancel their preseason games because there were so many fights.
Nice.
Oh wow,
I like that.
I just think as far as now nationally, it to me it seems Cowboys-Eagles is always the marquee matchup, and it's always collide, and it's always money. You know what I mean? Like there's always some stakes to it. Not only the fact that you're in the same division, but I just think that it's crazy to me that it's still so relevant, and the top two quarterbacks have faced each other twice ever. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts have only played each other twice in the NFL.
They were both last year.
No, so one was 2021, and then the other was 2023. As far as
Oh, was it? So one last year and one
in 2023. 2021 both. Week 3, Cowboys defeated the Eagles 41-21, and then their second matchup was last year, November, Week 9. Funny enough, Eagles defeated the Cowboys 28-23.
I'll say this though, because see, this is what I mean when I say I circle back to the Commanders. So the Commanders are red hot again. They might be good going forward. Right, likely good going forward. And then you add the added spice of who they led by, Dan Quinn, and some of the players that are helping them to excel are former Cowboys like Dorrance Armstrong and Tyler Biadasz and Dante Fowler. So all things considered, by the end of this year, beginning of next year, I might be right back on the Commanders being my number one most hated. But it's always going to be 1A, 1B. Like, ask me on any given week, and it might be the Eagles or the Commanders. But it's never the Giants just because I at least respect the Giants.
Yeah.
Right.
Those other two organizations, I can't.
I just think in terms of like growing up, I never really saw a heated rivalry between the Cowboys and the Washington football team. The Washington team. It was just.
I was there with you. I mean, same generation.
Right.
I mean, the best that Washington was whenever it was the RG3 years, the first 2 years, and then kind of pitter pattered until Kirk Cousins kind of gave them something to cheer about. They were never really a threat, but when we were growing up, it was the Giants and the Cowboys were always good at the same time. And
That's
Eli and
and
the
Tony
Cowboys. That was kind of the rivalry at that point. But it was always, for me, it was always still the Eagles.
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb and what they were doing early. It was always that green.
See, that's really when the Eagles hate ratcheted up for me was that Andy Reid era.
Yeah, for sure.
That's when
absolutely.
it really began. The whole T.O. thing, and he's former Cowboy, he's an Eagle now. That kind of shifted it. But like I said, if the Commanders keep being good and they have former guys from Dallas over there helping them be good, it adds more to the drama because it's like, how dare you?
I've never hated a team more than whenever DeMarco Murray went to go play for the Eagles. I've never hated a team
And how'd
more.
that work out for him?
I know it didn't work out well.
great.
Yeah.
But that was the most heated I've ever been over any transaction in NFL history. I was so upset.
The audacity.
I feel like that was a similar sentiment whenever Terrell Owens came to Dallas. Same kind of thing on the opposite side for Philadelphia because they loved T.O. and he came over and
but
had
at the end of the day, even though the Cowboys are playing bad football right now, little brother is still the Philadelphia Eagles. Still little brother. We don't have a Philadelphia week here in Dallas. They have a Dallas week.
Yeah.
So the little brother syndrome is rampant in
remember
Philadelphia.
when Sirianni was wearing a beat Dallas shirt during a press
I think
conference.
he still probably has it.
I'm
in
sure
his
he does.
closet.
There's a little
He
brother
works out in it this
Most
week.
punchable face in the NFL, possibly.
Absolutely.
Don't disagree.
Oh, yeah,
Hell, the
absolutely.
Commanders are still suffering from some little brother syndrome, even though they're off on a tear right now, and the Cowboys are spiraling. I saw a video last week after their win where the fans were like, "We want Dallas." What? I'm sorry. What? You're begging for a 3 and 5?
I'm sure you probably do.
Yeah.
If I'm being completely
right.
honest.
So that's what I mean. Where it's just like, come on, just relax.
Well, I love this. It's the first real rivalry of the year.
Yeah.
And, of course, it hasn't gone well for one team, and it's gone pretty well for the other team going into it.
We didn't mention the Giants at all in this conversation.
Well, I did. Just in the aspect of I don't hate. I don't hate the Giants. I respect them, but it's a healthy dislike. Right, It's one of those rivalries where it's like you can be around Giants fans and they'll talk their trash, you'll talk your trash. But at least 4 rings, 5 rings, okay, fine. Those other two organizations, it's like for all the trash you're talking, it's taking you so long.
Nah, Giants suck too. All right, give me some news and notes.
I like that. Up high.
Thanks, buddy.
Up high. All right. We're gonna just kind of spin off of yesterday. So obviously we had the breaking news yesterday, and we talked ad nauseum about it. Check out yesterday's episode. Title being "Is Mingo a Bingo?" We all feel very strongly in a couple of directions about, "Ooh, that's a bingo," but it's not. So Cowboys acquired Jonathan Mingo and a 7th round pick for next year. In exchange for a 2025 4th round pick. Check out our take on yesterday's episode.
Real quickly on to top of that, are you going to add to it from Mingo?
Well, not from Mingo.
Okay, I want to hit Mingo real quick. I thought we did a really good job of breaking it down because my initial thought after the trade we were thinking in real time whenever it came to the show yesterday because it broke
Breaking.
5 minutes before we popped on air. Maybe not even 5 minutes. I don't change the way that I view the trade. I don't like the compensation. It's also not a 2024 move. This was not a this year move. This was a 25, 26 move to try and build depth amongst your wide receiver room. Is that enough to give up a 4th round pick and return a 7th? Absolutely not. And I went back and watched the film. I made one statement yesterday. I was like, help solidify your wide receiver room, thinking positively about Jonathan Mingo. He's got a lot of work to do.
Ton.
And I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. He was in a bad BAD, capital BAD offense in Carolina. But there are some things that were BAD bad about Jonathan Mingo. He's got to be better in Dallas. He's got to take a step up. Not solidified with his hands. I mean, the target share is significant. He had a bevy of opportunities, and he didn't take advantage of it. I thought Bobby Belt hit a stat earlier.
Yeah, he did.
That was really good on Twitter, where out of all of the target shares In the NFL, since he was drafted in 2023, he has the lowest catch percentage out of all of them, with guys with 90 targets or more. So, got to be better in terms of the opportunities that are given. Maybe a little bit more separation would help him out. He's not building separation. His route running was not very good. He was kind of relying on his size to make the grab every once in a while, and kind of a body catcher at times too.
We love those guys here.
Yeah, there's a couple of those
separation,
guys that have been
body
around.
catchers.
Yeah, so doesn't mean that
emotional damage.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's the be all end all. He's a second round pick for a reason. I had a 4th round grade on him, so I thought he maybe went a little bit high in the draft in 2023. But going back and watching the film, there were some good things I liked. I liked the way he is physical. He will go up and get a jump ball, and he does bring an element of size that this offense doesn't have whenever it comes to the wide receiver position. Because if you think about it, all your guys are kind of small. Other than maybe Jalen Brooks.
So that perfect segue, because something that we didn't touch on yesterday, because again, we were talking about it and processing it in real time a few minutes after it happened. I sat with it yesterday and it hit me at my desk, and I asked this question to Nick even as soon as the light bulb came on. I was like, so for all of the talk we're saying, and of course I am absolutely not a fan of the 4th round compensation. No. I'm also not a fan of the timing of it. We talked about that yesterday. Go watch yesterday's episode if you want to know what I mean by the timing of it and why it should have been done sooner. If this is what you were going to do, then it would have been less expensive. What about Flanoy?
Yeah.
What does this say? What are the Cowboys saying about Ryan Flanoy?
It's indicative of the coaching staff and how they feel about him.
Right.
Sure.
So Cal poses a wonderful question, a wonderful statement, I should say, because he says, well, the Cowboys don't have the size that Jonathan Mingo brings. Well, actually, they do, and his name is Ryan Flanoy. And they have a guy who can high point, who can attack at the point of attack and be physical in how he runs and sheds, and et cetera, et cetera. But we've not seen him get those opportunities, even with the absence of Brandon Cooks. We just haven't seen Flanoy get the opportunities.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, because somebody that is as freakishly athletic as Ryan Flanoy is, to have not gotten the opportunities in games to know what that data set looks like. But then to give up a 4th round pick for a guy whose data set does not look great, like Kyle is saying, like Bobby so eloquently stated on Twitter, who's raw and has so much, more growth to do. My question is, if you put Flanoy next to Mingo right now, if you put him on the field right now, who's better? It might be Flanoy.
Just because you don't know.
Exactly my point. Which deepens my take on you gave up a 4th round pick for. So I was out on the 4th round pick before it hit me yesterday when I was like, wait a minute, Ryan Flanoy.
Yeah.
Now it's like, now I'm super out on the 4th round.
Based on the film that I've seen from the two, and Flanoy specifically in the preseason, because he hasn't had enough run and enough sample size. So I get it. In the regular season, I think Mingo is a more skilled wide receiver than Flanoy. But to your point, is it enough to give up a 4th round pick?
Correct.
No, I'm not.
And in
on
the
that
middle
bandwagon.
of a rookie season of a guy, so the skill set might be better as far as a little bit more refined.
Sure.
Athleticism goes to Flanoy, so it's a wash.
But what did Flanoy do with his first reception?
That's fair.
And we speculated
we know
how McCarthy and the coaching staff feel about players that fumble. I mean, granted, Devontae Serpin's still out there.
And I don't disagree with that, because guys need to learn not to give the ball away, right? On a team that's spiraling, you got to protect the ball. 100%.
On a team this desperate, you cannot.
It's also true, though,
in that manner.
And I guess this goes back to what I was saying yesterday, as far as the timing is concerned, and I would, if you wanted to make this Jonathan Mingo trade, I say you make it 3 weeks ago, because there's certain things you knew at that time. Cook's on IR. You knew what teams you were going to go up against. You knew your offense was stalling out in the red zone and you needed a spark. That would have been also the time for you to just unleash Ryan Flanoy and see what you have there before you pulled the trigger on at the trade deadline for Mingo. So one of those two things I would have liked to see happen, but neither of those things happened. So now you give up a 4th rounder for Mingo and you bring him into a situation wherein you don't know that Flanoy is or is not better or can or cannot be what you want Mingo to be. And you have Flanoy, you have more control over Flanoy as far as contractually, because he's still a rookie. So you still have him for another 3.5 years, right? So it's so many question marks there, but
But I think to what Kyle's point though, it's like they probably just are not liking what they're seeing.
It's got to be something there.
If we're not seeing him on the field, obviously there's something there about Flanoy that they're like,
especially if it's a element in a role that they felt that needed to be filled to the point where they are going to swap a 4th and a 7th round pick. If they think it's that important for that role, that physicality to be in your wide receiver room, and you haven't shown Ryan Flanoy snaps or given him opportunities, then yeah, I think there's something else there that we just don't know about.
Possibly. Do you feel like Flanoy's skill set could serve the Cowboys offense well in the red zone?
That's about all I have confidence in right now.
It's been clear as far as the preseason goes, even.
Which goes to the second part of this question. If you're bringing in Mingo to kind of be what Flanoy may not be for you in the red zone yet, would you give up a 4th round pick for a red zone threat?
No, but Mingo hasn't necessarily been a red zone threat. Everything he's done has been in between the 20s.
Respectfully, in Carolina, he's not been of much of a threat.
Period.
Any kind of threat.
He hasn't had much of anything, and he's going to have to become that fairly quickly for the Cowboys. But I mean, realistically speaking, like we talked about, all things considered, including the fact that Dak is likely headed to IR, which means he may not be back until December 9th against the Bengals. Then he's going to have to work off a little bit of rust, and then Mingo is going to take 2 or 3 games to kind of learn the language and of the playbook and his assignments and his keys and things like that. This is 100% a 2025 move, but it's kind of concerning that you were buyers and not sellers, but that's 2 episodes ago. Go check that out.
I don't even know if I would consider this buying, though. I know you did technically. You bought with a 4th round pick. I get it, but this isn't like, let's go make an impact move because we're buyers at the deadline and we're going to win in 2024. No, this is something building.
You know what puts in that conversation? Realistically speaking, you're right. It's not an impact move for 2025. Realistically speaking,
no.
But technically, because of the compensation you gave up for it, it kind of puts it in that conversation.
Kind of.
And that's what makes it uncomfortable.
Yeah. You spent a 4th round pick on a possible wide receiver 2, but more likely a wide receiver 3 or 4.
Right.
That's kind of what you did.
Yeah. So lots to figure out there for the Cowboys.
You spent a 3rd round pick in 2022 on a wide receiver 3 as well.
Also,
His name is Jalen Tolbert.
Also, what does it say about the progress of Jalen Brooks? I mean, you know what I mean?
Because he's a 7th round pick too. We're banking on Jalen Brooks, Ryan Flanoy. These guys are 7th round picks. You got one back. If you want to spend your 7th round pick that you got back from Carolina on a receiver too, you could throw him into the mix too. I mean, come on now. It's not like they've invested
I'm just posing the questions. These are not necessarily. This is just me posing the questions because I mean, realistically speaking, you've seen more from Jalen Brooks in the NFL than you've seen from Jonathan Mingo in the NFL. So if we're just talking film data sets and things like that, I mean, you have. So that's what I mean when I say it's a lot to figure out. But, I mean, as it stands, McCarthy doesn't have a contract beyond 2024. So there's not a lot of time right now for McCarthy to get this figured out, even with Jonathan Mingo. So, of course, without Dak Prescott for a minimum of 4 games, assuming they put him on IR.
Jalen Brooks only has 15 career receptions or 13 career receptions. Jonathan Mingo's had a whole lot more than that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm curious, since you have it in front of you, what's the yards per catch on both of them?
So for Jalen Tolbert, 26 targets, 13 receptions, so a 50% catch rate. He has 167 yards, no touchdowns. Whereas for Jonathan Mingo, standing by. Where's Mingo? Oh, man, I messed up. I'm a slow typer.
Oh, you're a henpecker.
I am a henpecker.
Oh, no.
Actually, I'm really not. Just in this very moment, I am.
You're pulling a Josh.
Comparatively,
like Josh yesterday when you threw it to him?
Yeah.
He was like,
comparatively, 111 targets for Mingo, 111 for 55 receptions, 539 yards, 9.8 yards per reception, so 12 versus 10 basically, and neither had a touchdown. So the success radius on far fewer targets is better. Success percentage, far fewer targets is better for Brooks than it is for Mingo.
Yeah, outside of Tolbert, which his data set is growing, outside of him, man, this receiver room and CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, it's rough.
And Brandon Cooks, who has to come back and work some rust off. I don't know, man. There's just so much unproven, and it's shaky. It's shaky. All right, so circling back to news and notes, so that's the Mingo piece. Cowboys made 2 other transactions yesterday. They released both cornerback Andrew Booth and defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. So the trade deadline went as follows for the Cowboys. They acquired Jonathan Mingo by giving up a 4th-round pick, and then they released both of their 2024 training camp trade acquisitions in Jordan Phillips and Andrew Booth. Both of those guys were acquired in mid-August within a 5-day span of
Israel
each other.
Mukuamu traded, or not Israel, Nahshon Wright traded
to the Vikings to acquire Andrew Booth. And there's a caveat for the Jordan Phillips trade. I know some folks were asking me about that. That was a conditional move for the Cowboys. So the condition was that there would also be a pick swap in 2025, 7th coming to the Cowboys, 6th going to the New York Giants. But the condition was that Jordan Phillips had to play in at least 2 games in order for that trade to be or in order for that deal to go through. Jordan Phillips played in exactly 2 games. And then he went on IR, and then he was released from IR.
So does that count?
It does count.
So that will go through. They will pick swap.
Yeah,
deal is
pick
done.
swap. The deal is done. The Giants are thanking the Cowboys for playing him for exactly 2 games to give up that 6th-round pick. So there you go. So
pick swapped.
Jordan Phillips
Late day 3.
Jordan Phillips and
Instead
Andrew
of picking
Booth.
212, we'll be picking 241. Oh, darn.
Well, right now, it all matters. Now.
I guess.
I don't know. You can make something pop with a 6th-round pick, especially at a
Talk to me in a couple weeks when I get my draft board ready.
So Andrew Booth and Jordan Phillips, they leave Dallas with a combined 0 sacks, 0 pass breakups, 0 interceptions, 0 forced fumbles, 0 fumble recoveries, and only 7 combined tackles, and 6 of those were to Andrew Booth, only 1 to Jordan Phillips. So
NGB.
those not great, Bob. Those 2 experiments, those 2 trade experiments did not work out well. So
it's funny it's not funny at all. Actually, it's really terrible. It just seems that every
sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying.
I know. Yeah, that's happening a lot today. It certainly feels like every move the Cowboys have made just has not worked so far. If you look back to the offseason, I mean, you think about bringing in all right, you lose Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Let's bring in Mike Zimmer. That doesn't work.
It's the quickness in which you deliver.
Keep on going.
Mozzie Smith. Let's rely on Mozzie Smith.
Feud.
Mozzie Smith. I mean, you just go
Steve
down
Harvey.
the line, and everything they were sort of banking on, like, all right, let's take a chance and let's do it this way.
Linval is uneven. Jordan Phillips
trades,
is not working. Andrew Booth's not working.
Just at every turn, like, all right, well, let's bring Eric Kendricks in to,
that was a good one.
solidify the defense, right? And even that has been not great. I mean, he's a good addition to the defense, but I just mean it doesn't change.
It's mostly been your defensive tackles that are hurting.
I was going to say, and that
Eric
makes
Kendricks.
And
He's
that's
suffering
makes
from
the
what's
job
happening up
harder
front.
on the linebackers. Yeah, but I mean, all things considered, EK has been still the best acquisition thus far. And shouts out to Oruwariye. He's on IR right now, but prior to going on IR with that back injury, he was kind of a revelation in short order. So, a couple of them have worked out, but you're right. For the most part,
Zeke.
Yeah, that's not worked out yet either. So, I mean, the fact that you were drawing out your words like this when you were describing that tells me exactly how much of a non-successful stint it has been with the acquisitions.
It is just not great, Bob.
Not great. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, it's time to preview the Dallas defense going up against this Philadelphia offense. It's not going to get much easier for the Cowboys. Front 7 going up against an offensive line that's finding its rhythm, and then a guy that you recognize from 2 games a year previously, but he might be in a different uniform and playing better than he ever has been. Saquon Barkley. How do you slow him down? When we come back with more Talking Cowboys right after this.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee Company. Live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, we've got Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Quaker Oats, trusted since 1877. Alongside Patrik Walker Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Youmans. Keeping it real here from the Dallas Cowboys.
100%.
Keeping it real. That's what we do. We say it with our chests.
Yeah.
We keep it real, and we keep it straight with the fans because guess what? That's what they deserve. That's what the fans deserve. Right. They don't deserve PR and pub and just the fluff of what this team has been whenever it's been a bad football team. They deserve the real truth and the honest truth, and that's what we're trying to give them.
Yeah, we're talking Cowboys,
week in, week out.
Not talking pom-poms.
Absolutely not. All right, let's get into this matchup because we do break it down X's and O's style here on this show as well. Cowboys defensive matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the way that the Eagles have been playing lately, it is a scary sight. And, I mean, you got to give credit to the way that they've revamped some things. They lost a lot in the offseason.
Absolutely.
But they've found some guys. They went out and they've acquired Saquon Barkley. That looks to be the move of the offseason. Not only within the NFC East, but possibly within the NFC or NFL in general, because he's just been a dude so far this year. When you look at this offense compared to what it had been previously, Patrik, where does it stand out most to you in the way that they've taken a step forward?
It's their halfback play. It's the play at running back. And because they were always a team, I don't want to say always, but they were a team in the Jalen Hurts era wherein Jalen Hurts had to be the large majority of their rushing attack, right? And he had to kind of offset and create the balance so that he can then drop back and throw to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown once they acquired A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert in the post-Zach Ertz era. But with the addition of Saquon Barkley and the level of play that he is delivering for them right now, it's keeping Jalen Hurts fresh for the long run because he's not having to take off and run as much. But it also makes the things like read options that much more effective because you have no choice but to respect what Saquon Barkley is doing. He's averaging just under 116 rushing yards per game. I didn't say 116 from scrimmage average. I said just rushing. But he's also doing it as a receiver out of the backfield. Oh, and by the way, he's turning his back on guys and hurdling them without even looking at them, right?
That play was unbelievable.
He's turning back time.
Yeah, right now,
Eagles,
play of the season right now. So when you look at that offense, you know, A.J. Brown is still doing A.J. Brown things. Devontae Smith, he's still very much a threat. Dallas Goedert, when he's healthy, he can still help stretch down the seams. But Saquon Barkley, his presence, his productivity, it blows up defenses because you're having such a hard time stopping him that you're starting to throw an extra 1 or 2 guys at him, and all that does is open up things for AJ and Devontae and Jalen to throw down the field. For guess who's the offensive coordinator? Kellen Moore, right?
Yeah.
So and Kellen Moore, although he's the offensive coordinator, he knows all the tricks of McCarthy's play scheme. He knows the entire playbook because, to a degree, the Cowboys are still running a large chunk of Kellen Moore's playbook.
Right.
So you better believe Kellen Moore is giving the
whatever
the
Dak
intel.
wanted to keep of that playbook, right?
And now it's not even Dak; it's Cooper Rush on top of that. So,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's but kind of flipping back to the Cowboys defense versus the Eagles offense, man. Saquon Barkley. I'm not going to say the Eagles they go as Saquon goes because they were effective before they got Saquon, but they weren't this.
No, it's scary. You'd think after Jason Kelce retires from the NFL, retires from the Eagles, you'd think they'd take a step back, and they have only run forward as far as the running
and they've
attack
had
goes.
injury.
And they've
on
had
top
injury.
of that on the offensive line.
But if you look at the offensive line and you look at specifically the right side of the ball, you have Cam Jurgens at the center. And he's graded at a 65 Pro Football Focus run grade. But Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, both over 80 grade when it comes to running the dang ball. That's pretty good, Bob. That's pretty darn good. You add in the fact that Saquon Barkley, like we said before, is turning back the wheels of time and looks like rookie Saquon Barkley again. And not only with the speed and the agility and just the fierceness in which he runs, the physicality of the way he runs, but he's actually running behind a good line this time. He's not running behind the New York Giants of the last 10 years, right? And going back to the last 10 games against the Dallas Cowboys, we've been able to bottle up Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. True story.
He's only had about 58.1 rushing yards per game in those 10 games. That's an average, right? An average about 4.8 yards per carry, which is, not terrible, not great. But touchdowns, guys. You know how many touchdowns he's had?
How many?
Talk to us.
3 touchdowns Saquon Barkley has had against the Dallas Cowboys, rushing and no receiving at all.
And then, of course, this is during his time with a bad Giants offensive line and still able to do some things. Now he's got some pieces around him. He's got some guys up front that are blocking for him. The number that sticks out for me from Saquon, he's always had the production, if healthy. It's the 6 yards per carry on average.
Nasty work.
6 yards per carry on average.
That's not
the
one
course.
game. That's
that's over 157 carries. He's averaging 5.9 yards per carry.
Freaking gingerbread, man.
He's been unbelievable. So, and we talked about this last week with Bijan Robinson and the dynamic ability as a running back and a complete back. You get it again in Saquon Barkley. You get another opportunity with the weapons outside. I called Atlanta Detroit Jr., and I think that kind of showed. And of course, Drake London leaving the game early didn't necessarily open things up for the Atlanta Falcons the way I think they anticipated. But Philadelphia has their own element to it. Maybe not to the same extent as those two teams do, but they win in the trenches a little bit better than I think the Falcons did this past week. I think their offensive line, despite the injuries, still finds a way to get it done. Jalen Hurts is still a dude. He has 8 rushing touchdowns this year. So even with kind of what, Patrick, you were outlining earlier, a team that doesn't have to have Jalen Hurts run the football, he can still do that. Yep. And he can do it in the red zone, especially. The tush push is still a thing. It's still alive and well, even though Jason Kelce's not there anymore. But yeah. So my question becomes to you is there any level of confidence, the fact that you were able to kind of have some success last week? You just didn't get run all over. You allowed some rushing yards, but you didn't get run all over against Atlanta. Can you replicate that and have similar success from a front seven standpoint against Philadelphia?
I think as far as Cowboys go with this matchup, the Eagles have let bad teams come back on them. Like the Jaguars were very close into winning that game last week, if not for a last-minute interception by Nakobe Dean. And the Saints, who for all intents and purposes are a really bad football team, not when they play us, of course, the very next week, they let... Man, it just felt like the Eagles were giving them every opportunity to win that game. At least in my perspective, you do have a chance against this Philadelphia Eagles team. However, it doesn't seem likely based on our performance, if that makes sense.
When you look at the performances of the Cowboys, the injuries, and so forth and so on. This game is so stacked against them as far as the variables are concerned. The only true hope is exactly what you pointed out, KY, in that you hope the Eagles play down. If they play down to the competition, which they've shown that they can do from time again,
definitely done that.
That will likely keep the game closer than what makes them comfortable, and then it's just a bounce of a ball. It's somebody make a big play here. It's a bad call goes against them, and maybe that determines the game, and you can steal the upset. But because so much is going well for them and they're mostly healthy, and so much is going poorly for you and you're mostly unhealthy, and you're still trying to figure out, because you make a great point. Saquon, outside of the touchdowns, yardage per game, he has not done well versus the Cowboys. Win-loss record versus the Cowboys is abysmal, but most of that is with Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator, not Mike Zimmer still trying to figure out where to have guys in position, things like that. This defense is struggling. Right. So I think your best chance of stealing this win, keep in mind you also haven't won at home, so there's another thing working against you, is the Falcons. The Eagles have to come in and look down at you and play down and think that, oh, you're not on our level, so we can kind of take our foot off the gas. That's your only real hope, is that by the time they realize that they've been playing down, is that it's one or two plays too late.
I chuckle because we started this whole show despite what direction each one of these franchises is headed and where these franchises are headed. We started the show by saying how much hatred we have for the Philadelphia Eagles.
100%.
The Eagles are saying the exact same thing about Dallas. I mean, they cannot stand Dallas. So if you anticipate that being the only, if you anticipate that being the only hope, is that the Eagles are going to play down and overlook the Dallas Cowboys in a year where the Dallas Cowboys are wrong, that's not the hope.
It's not the only
for.
hope, but it's, realistically speaking, it's in the equation. It's in the conversation. Because let's say the additional hope is that you get Micah Parsons back and you get DaRon Bland on the field for the first time this season.
What's the possibility that those two things happen?
Right now, better than it has been.
Okay.
I will say that. We'll see what today's practice, today being Wednesday, we'll see what today's practice looks like. But Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy both intimated that Micah Parsons and DaRon Bland will have at least a shot at practicing today. It feels more so Micah than DaRon, but DaRon does have that chance. If Micah and I'm not going to say and or, but if Micah and DaRon can get on this field for the Cowboys, then your odds increase. Question is, and I know everyone's going to say, well, how much do your odds increase? No, see, not sure, because when Micah was on the field, you still struggled with the pass rush. You still struggled to stop the run. DaRon Bland, we haven't seen him on the field for 2024 yet, and we haven't seen him on the field with Trayvon Diggs at all yet, but that actually makes things more intriguing for me, because this will be the first time that we've seen, assuming he finally gets on the field, first time we've seen Jordan Lewis, Trayvon Diggs, and DaRon Bland on the field at the same time as starters. So that could help you against the passing attack that is more or less three-headed in Jalen Hurts and those guys. So there's hope in that aspect, and that's rightful hope. That's credible, justifiable hope.
Yeah.
But Micah, is there going to be rust, or is he just going to come out and be the animal that he is? And what level can he take this pass rush to? Can he get back to it? So, I mean, all hope is not lost. All hope is not contingent upon the Eagles playing down, because I get what you're saying. Division rival, they want to smash and punch the Cowboys in the face over and over and over again. They want to drop a 50 burger and walk off laughing. True. But we've seen at several points during certain games where the Eagles will, maybe they get out to a 2-touchdown lead and they will take their foot off the gas. And then they'll wake back up and they'll say, oh, okay, well, let's play serious again. Hopefully the Eagles just get overconfident.
That's not going to happen against the Cowboys. There's no way.
They're dialed in for the Cowboys.
Yeah, like I just don't see that.
Bring us down to earth a little bit. I mean, as much as I'd love to
legacy
see,
game.
Sounds good to me. Now that's the hope I feel like can actually happen.
That's what you're going to do.
Let's see if we can make something happen.
He's got a winning record.
We'll talk that offense tomorrow.
Jonathan Mingo's going to go off for 110 and 2 tutties.
Yeah. We'll talk that offense tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have somebody's going to have a legacy game.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. All right.
Sucks to lose.
It does suck to lose. I hate losing.
That's all.
All right. When we come back, we talked about the ground game. That passing attack is still significant as well. You mentioned some of the guys in the secondary. I want to see more out of this safety bunch. Where can you see more out of the safeties? When we come back with more Talkin' Cowboys right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company. Patrik Walker Josh Rodriguez. Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. Got my Black Rifle in this morning.
I got my Black Rifle right here, baby.
Let's go. In your Yeti.
I'm still
official partner of the Cowboys, too.
I'm still working through that sip of Black Rifle that I took.
That you loved.
That I took a few
okay,
weeks ago.
Listen, you did admit that out of coffee, that was the best coffee.
For anyone who likes coffee would probably love that.
There you go.
That's what
and I do. There you go.
We'll probably love that.
All right. I mentioned the passing game. I mentioned the safeties. One of the big knocks for me this year for this defense when watching the film is how poorly the safeties have played. And there's been times where Donovan Wilson's been out of position, especially in coverage. He's really been bad this year. Better when he's playing downhill. And I thought he had a nice game against Atlanta. I thought he played better.
He did. He certainly did.
He played better against Atlanta. Malik Hooker hasn't been perfect either, though. So in a game like this where it is so balanced, where you do have Saquon Barkley on one side and you have guys like Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown. I know A.J. Brown's hurt, but you've got the weapons that Philadelphia has at their disposal. How much does it rely on the safeties to be balanced and to be assignment heavy and to be where they need to be?
Disciplined, right?
That was
disciplined. Yeah, that was the word I was kind of looking for.
That's the word you need for these safeties, man. And like you said, Dono had a really good game in Atlanta, and I think a big part of that was he was disciplined. He was staying. He was minding his assignment, and you could see that it bounced off the film there. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, the safeties have to be disciplined and be able to trust in the system. And, if you like it or not, man, you got to be able to pay attention to the details. And something that Jordan Lewis has brought up before.
Yeah, details. Now,
he was the 5th highest graded defender last week.
Yeah, he made my
according to PFF.
Really?
He made my game breakers list.
Who else was on that list? Who was the top 5?
Osa was number 1. Osa had a really good game.
Did.
Carl Lawson, of course, he had 2 sacks. He's closing in on 30 in his career.
Well, he was in Georgia, so.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis is still a dude. He had a 90 coverage grade, and Jordan's just
fought
a dog.
through some pain, too, to make that happen.
This one's a little bit weird because he only had 5 snaps, but it's Maris Leofau. So I would really kind of say Dono was probably the 4th best defender. And I would agree with those 3 based off of the film. That was Osa's best game of his year so far. I mean, that was the best game of the season that Osa's had. Carl Lawson, of course, had the 2 sacks, so you got to give him some
best
credit
game
where credit
Carl
is due.
Lawson's career in a minute.
Yeah, best one for sure in a Cowboys uniform for sure.
Absolutely.
And then Jordan's still doing Jordan things.
Yeah, and
consistent.
It's good that Jordan's still doing Jordan things. Had a bit of an injury scare there in Atlanta, but went right back into the game.
I was thinking about that in the last segment when we were talking about Trayvon and getting these guys back.
I expect Jordan to play.
I expect him to play, but I expect him to be on the injury report too.
He's
a little banged up.
That's fair. So they might give him. I mean, he's going to get some treatment this week.
Sure.
And because he's going to get some treatment, he
may
will
be limited, or
he will
maybe even a DNP. He's a veteran DNP.
But as far as the safeties, I mean, you're right. The Cowboys need. And this is true of all three levels. Cowboys need better play from everybody, but this question is focused on the safeties. So yes, you need better play from the safeties. Now I'm going to put on my Isaiah Stanback hat on this one and say that
Zeus in L.A.
Yeah, say that one of the things that is costing the safeties is their placement in this scheme. Right, I'm seeing Donovan Wilson in coverage far too often. Right, go back and look at Donald in the DQ scheme, and he was much more of a downhill in the box. Mix him up in blitz packages,
playing
things
to
like
his strengths.
that. Playing to his strengths. Donovan Wilson this season has not been asked to play to his strengths, and it has cost him mightily. Even against Atlanta, and he graded very highly on a lot of different metrics. And he was one of the handful of guys that I listed as game breakers. And shout out to him for being Johnny on the spot, getting that fumble recovery as well. So his tackling was better than I've seen in recent games.
I've got some numbers for you on that point, by the way.
His coverage, though, he still struggled in coverage against the Falcons. So it kind of just all ties into what I'm saying. Speaking to the Donald point, Donovan Wilson is a much better player than you're seeing on film this season. So that led me to go back and look at film over the past several games and try to figure out, well, is it mostly Dono? Now, there's some accountability to Dono as far as like missed tackle, lack of execution, whatever the case may be. But Donovan Wilson has never been a center fielder. He's never had that free safety in him. But he's being asked to do some of that work in 2024 under Mike Zimmer.
Some of it. Here's the numbers I got for you.
Let's get the numbers, Kyle.
243 snaps this year have been at free safety for Donovan Wilson.
That's not going to cut.
That's crazy.
You know how many he's been in the box? Would you think it's more or less in the box?
Less in the box.
Less in the box. 167. He's had nearly 100 more snaps as a free safety than as a box safety.
So this looks like a Cowboys cap. This is actually my Isaiah Stanback cap, right? So I got Isaiah Stanback on. Right?
Quickly, just for comparison references, you want to hear 2023?
Come on with it.
2023, he had 296 snaps as a free safety. He's almost reached that already this year. He had 321 snaps in the box.
Come on with it. Again, I state.
NGB.
So if you're wondering why Donovan Wilson was excelling under Dan Quinn, but he's struggling under Mike Zimmer, I've said all season, I'm more so looking at I need better player execution, better player effort, things like this. But on this particular note, this is defensive coordinator stuff. Okay, this scheme is not serving Donovan Wilson well at all. And because he's being asked to play out of position.
How many times have we said that about a key player on this defense?
Yeah, it's happening. But there's a ripple effect as well.
Yeah.
Because every time he goes to free safety, it impacts Malik Hooker, right? So now this thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. So I 100% agree when it comes to, because I can hear Isaiah in my head right now. He's like, yes, that's what I'm saying. Right. So I've been on the players need to play better, and that's still true. But on this particular note, if you want better safety play, you have to put these two safeties in better positions to capitalize upon what they do well. Donovan Wilson is your heat-seeking missile. See ball, get ball. See ball carrier, hit ball carrier. Play downhill, play forward. You're asking him to play backward. That's not his bag. No. That's why he's struggling.
We've known that since his first snaps.
That's why he's struggling.
You send him towards the ball carrier.
Since he was playing at Kyle Field for the Texas A&M Aggies, you kind of knew run forward, Donovan Wilson.
Safety. So,
run forward.
And unfortunately, it's caused a situation where, rightfully so, it's like, okay, well, if you're Mike Zimmer and you want another cover safety back there with Malik Hooker, well, you have a guy like Wanye Thomas and you have Marquise Bell, but those two have been mostly relegated to special teams. And now Wanye Thomas, he might miss this game in the concussion protocol. We'll see what he looks like on the injury report.
Yeah,
something's got to change schematically if you want the safeties to perform better.
Got to. something's got to change scheme out
if you want everyone to play better.
Yeah, you gotta figure it out this week against Philadelphia. Tomorrow we will preview the Cowboys offense versus that Philadelphia defense. What does Cooper Rush have up his sleeve to try and help the Cowboys find some rhythm offensively? We've got Isaiah back in the building. Tomorrow he'll bring some QB vision as well, taking a look at that Philadelphia defense. I think there's some ways that Dallas could still move the ball this week. I think there's opportunities just based off of the preliminary film. You can absolutely have some success. Could be a fun matchup in that regard. Maybe not as much as the one we talked about,
but in that regard
today. All right, but that's going to do it for us here on Talkin Cowboys. Excuse me. For Chris Beam in the back, for Josh Rodriguez, Patrik No C Walker, I'm Kyle Youmans. We'll see you tomorrow on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?